But what's the point of taking the point up with the present witness who merely says what she was told by the Provincial Commissioner, who in any event will be coming to give evidence at some stage in the near future?
Chair, I have another problem with this whole debate. My learned friend, if he puts factual inaccuracies, can only put it on the basis that that's his version. I don't for a moment accept these as factual inaccuracies. In fact, my people haven't given evidence yet. General Mbembe hasn't given evidence yet. Whether this is the result of a turf war between Num and Amco,
General Mbombo.
Yeah. Whether this is a result of a turf war between two unions is very much a live debate from my perspective. So my learned friend can put these, quote, inaccuracies, unquote, as his version and no more.
Okay. Well,
I think impliedly, to be fair, that's what he was doing. He perhaps didn't say it expressly, but I understood that. And if there was anyone here who didn't so understand it, they will now so understand it.
Yes.
But please proceed in a focused way on this point.
Yes.
okokuba elingqina alikwazi ukusinceda ngalento ithethwa apha ngoba kuya ngalo ngundiva lona uthi umhlekazi ubheke azawubizwa lamanqina azothetha ezi zinto ngokugcweleyo ngoba abekhona apho.
Yes. Yeah, well, Chairperson, not only do I put it on the basis that it's my version, I go further. I put it on the basis that it is nobody's version in these proceedings that the 5 people killed on the 13th were as a result of clashes between AMCO and WM.
Apparently it's Lonman's version, and Lonman haven't had an opportunity to lead evidence yet. So Mr. Berger says we can't make a finding at this stage in anticipando, as it were, before he's even been given a chance to lead the evidence. That must be right. So it's not a matter of moment at the moment. It's clear your version is different from his.
Yes.
Let's just carry on that.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Kuzawuvezwa obobungqina okokuba leyo kwakungumlo wawuphakathi kwala maqela amabili abasebenzi.
The further point, General, that I want to put to you is that part of the to-the-minute information included the fact that, for example, Bishop Sioka had had a discussion with the protesters and your members of SABC and informed them informed your people, General Mbombo and others, about what the protesters wanted as at about 13:45, which was to-the-minute information of what was happening, and that the police ignored the bishop, to put it mildly.
Oh, yeah.
You are aware of that?
Now, ulazi okokuba Bishop Sioka emva kokuba sathethe nabaqhankqalazi phaya waphinda waya kubantu bakhoma SAP wawaxelela okokuba abaqhankqalazi balila ngantoni amapolisa awayizange ayinakeke loo nto ayizange ayithathele.
National Commissioner Mrs. Semenya wishes to say something.
The question again, Chair, is unclear whether this is reference to Bishop saying that people want water and food. Which part is wrong?
Uthi umhlekazi oSiminya akazi kuba umhlekazi oMpofu uthetha abantu bathi bafuna ukutya namanzi noma bathetha enye into yintoni le bayithetha.
Okay, let me preface this by taking you back to what I said earlier. Your prescripts say that you need to know accurate and to-the-minute information. I'm saying to you, part of the most important to-the-minute information, which might have even averted the massacre, was the fact that the bishop had interacted with the strikers and they had basically sent him to management with a message which he wanted to relay not only to management but also to the police, but the police ignored him. That is a crucial part of the to-the-minute reality of what was happening. Do you understand?
How can this witness help us on that issue? We've had the evidence of the bishop. We're going to have the evidence of the provincial commissioner about her dealings with the bishop. But how can the national commissioner help us on that point?
Chairperson, with the greatest respect, This is a witness who has said to this commission that one of the key things for them acting is the accuracy of information. I'm busy showing her that they acted or might have acted on information which was inaccurate. How can the witness, who is the National Commissioner of Police, not be able to comment as to whether that or is as she says, in conformity with the prescripts for which she thanked the people, or it is not?
Alibuza ke elinqina liuthi umhlekazana nakwazi ukuba ngakwazi ukunceda ngoba ezo zinto zawuthethwa ngabo babekhona provincial commissioner nabanye uthi umhlekazi umpofu liyakwazi ukunceda ngoba lilona eli ngumphathi jikelele kumapolisa okokuba imimiselo iyayibeka nanga njengalendlela okuba phambi kokuba bathathe noma leli gxathu kufanele babe nolwazi olupheleleyo la ngalelo xesha.
Then I formally object to the question on the basis you've put to my learned friend, and I request a ruling. This is quite irrelevant, what this witness's version on a contentious issue in this case is. She wasn't there. She didn't know what happened. The bishop was here. He was cross-examined. We'll hear the police when they come. This is wasting time, and I seek a ruling.
Well, I've already answered the objection, but I don't know how Mr. Berger is not a witness here. I don't know how he knows whether the witness was or was not, because, you know.
Never come on, Mr. Mpofu. That answer isn't worthy of you. The witness has already said that she wasn't there. It's never been suggested that she was, so I think we can take it as a given that she wasn't there.
Well, then she may have been told. She wasn't there for everything, then, Chairperson. Why is she here? She wasn't there the whole day. Then why did she say anything about the 16th?
This commission will have to decide certain factual issues. And I regret to say that the views of the National Commissioner on those factual issues, which relate to points that arose when she wasn't present, in respect to which she has no specialized knowledge, will cut no ice with the Commission at all and will be ignored. So let us not indeed even elicit information or evidence from her which will merely be ignored.
Okay,
so the ruling I give is in favour of Mr. Berger.
Yes. I'll step back. Do you know that Bishop Sioka tried to intervene and to prevent the massacre? Do you know, General?
Wait, there's some static on the line. I don't know what's happening. Someone's cell phone, with everyone who has a cell phone, please turn it off. Otherwise, unless it's someone whose presence is essential for the ongoing work of the Commission, I'll ask for that person to be removed from the room. Whether the witness knows about Bishop Sioka's intervention clearly will depend on hearsay. It will depend on something that she was told or something that she read in the newspaper. Again, I don't understand any relevance of her comments upon whether he was present or whether he wasn't, or what exactly he did or tried to do. Perhaps you could expand that to me before I rule on it?
Honestly, I don't think I can even go that far as to explain. If the witness knows now that there was something which could have prevented the massacre, and that is irrelevant, well, then I'll just move to something else. I don't know how that could ever be irrelevant.
Mr. Mpofu, the witness's knowledge of these matters is a matter for her herself. If it could have prevented the massacre, is a matter you will argue in due course. If you are correct, we will uphold you and make a finding accordingly. If you are wrong, we will make a finding the other way. But nothing this witness can say will help us in making that finding, because her knowledge in the matter is based on hearsay, and she has no particular expertise or anything of that kind which can assist us in resolving the factual dispute that will arise in consequence of the arguments that you're going to put up before us. Yeah. It's on that basis that I rule that the evidence is irrelevant. Okay. And I suggest you move on to a point that has more relevance than the ones you're busy with at the moment.
Uthinto ayivanga abanye abantu undiva awunawunceda apha uza kuyibeka loo ntetho umhlekazi Mpofu xa sekwenziwa intetho mpikiswano kujongwe apho kokuba injani iyavakala ikanena ayivakali naloo ntetho okwamanje machubeke ngeminye imibuzo.
Okay, well, General, unfortunately, the only thing I can ask you is simply that whether you, or rather say to you what I'm going to argue and ask for a comment, which is that if the police acted on inaccurate and not to the minute information, that would have caused disastrous consequences if the factual basis was incorrect.
Inyani ke le endibeka kokuba xa amapolisa asebenza ngolwazi olungaphelelanga ngelo xesha benganalo ulwazi olupheleleyo kungenzeka okokuba indlela abasebenza ngayo yaphanzana bekungaba khona enye indlela ebeyingenziwa xa benolwazi oluphelele.
Or maybe to put it in the reverse, the reason why these prescripts that I read to you put so much emphasis on the accuracy of up-to-the-minute information is exactly to avert a situation where the police act on an incorrect factual basis and cause a disaster.
Apha kumimiselo ndiyenda kufundela yona apho kuthiwa kudingeka ukuba amapolisa abe nolwazi olupheleleyo laleyo nto ngelo xesha phambi kokuba bathathe noma ngeliphi inyathelo ukuze bakwazi ukuthi kungenzeki into engafanelanga ngoba benganalo ulwazi oluphelele.
A note informing me that a group of injured people who are represented by Mr. Mpofu want to sit in the chamber despite limited space. There are 31 in number. And are there 31 seats available?
Yes. Thank you.
There have been arrangements have been made for them to sit in a room across the courtyard where there'll be a television screening of what's happening.
The current group basically is opposed to that. They are saying they cannot watch the screen while their legal representatives are currently sitting here representing them. So there's basically the challenge is around the space.
Well, that's a matter which we'll deal with when we get there. There is accommodation for the people who want to come in. And I suggest if they want to come in, they should come in. And if they don't want to come in, they can stay out.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Sorry, excuse me, Chairperson. Chairperson, it's me.
I was looking for a light, but I fear your computer top may have blocked the light, so I couldn't see. I was looking for a microphone light. Is your microphone on? Well, your computer's blocking it. I can't see. Right. Yes, please proceed.
Chairperson, I think the best thing to do, we had suggested that they wait for the adjournment, the tea adjournment. Then what we will do, we'll add an extra row of chairs, the free chairs that side. And I think that will accommodate them.
Oh, there are 31 outside and there are 31 chairs available now. I don't know why they're not inside here.
I am sure we do have that number of chairs, and what I'm not sure of is that whether they will fit inside. But we will try to fit a last row.
As far as I can see, making a quick estimate, I would guess there are 31 chairs. But if they didn't come on time before we started, then I'm not sure that they can demand that we stop proceedings to accommodate them because they happen to be late. But if they want to come in, they can come in, as long as they do so quietly. Let's carry on.
Yeah. Lubethetha ngu-Secretary we-Commission u-Advocate uStudy uthi uzokwenza onke amalungiselelo okokuba ababantu abangama-31 abapha phandle balungiselwe indawo yokuhlala ngoba ngabafelokazi izihlobo nezalamane zababantu bathi bafuna ukuba apha abameli babo bekhona iyokwenziwa loo nto xa sesiphumile.
Sorry, Chair. While Mr. Sadati is making arrangements for the injured, can they also keep in mind that the family members will be attending the commission tomorrow? And I think
the commission won't be sitting tomorrow, but the question of the arrangements for the family will be discussed during the adjournment.
Yes, Chair.
Not anything we need to discuss here in the auditorium.
Yes, Chair.
Into esawuthetha ngayo xa iCommission iphumela sinakuthetha ngayo apha amalungiselelo okokuba izihlobo nezilamane zawuhlala apha ezizawufika ngomso.
Chair, our second clarity is Mr. Mpofu's case that the disaster, as he uses the word, was caused by the failure to take up to the minute accurate information.
I think that is his case.
Among other things, yes.
And there'll be
amongst
evidence,
other things, yes, Chief.
and there'll be evidence to that effect, Chair.
Either evidence or argument, I would think, but
uzakuyiveza kwintetho mpikisano umhlekazi uMpofu ukuba lento yabangwa ngokuba inhlekelele yavela ngokuba amapolisa engenalo ulwazi lupheleleyo ngelo xesha.
Will be an argument, but I take it to have a factual basis. It may be based on circumstantial arguments, based on circumstantial evidence, not necessarily direct evidence, but certainly circumstantial evidence to establish that. Whether the argument is good or bad is something we can't decide now. So that's your point, is it, Mr. Mpofu?
That's all, Chairperson, and I'm moving on to something else.
Asinakwenza isigqibo ngaloo nto ngoku ngoba obomnqina mhlawumbe uzabuveza umhlekazi uMpofu kube kubunqina obubekwe phezu kwemeko eyayikhona ngelo xesha uthi uzawuchubeka.
I regret to say, with all the excitement about the adequacy of the seating for people who want to come in, I think I missed the answer if there was one. So I would ask the National Commissioner to please repeat it if she gave it, or to give it for the first time if she didn't.
I think listening to the argument that is going around, the issue of inaccurate to the minute information, that matter is going to be argued. There will be a standpoint of the police. There is your standpoint, and those that were there. I think General Anandele started talking about some of General Mbombo is coming, General Mpembe is coming. So there will be an argument on that matter, and there would be disagreement.
Ukho ukuvumelana nokungavumelani ngaloo nto kodwa ke iyawujonga ngelo xesha sebefikile lawo manqina useza uGeneral Mbombo useza uGeneral Mpembe usethethile uGeneral Anandeli kukho ebekwa ngamapolisa ngolhlobo ephikisana nalo uyithethayo kuyawubonakala xa sekuvezwa intetho mpikisano.
Thank you very much, General. We will have that argument, I can assure you. Incidentally, have you found whether or not there was a recording of Mr. Lipaku's funeral where you allegedly made the statement that SABC should not be sorry? I've asked, my learned friend could not find it, but he said they were going to ask you. Have you found it?
Statement esenziwa phaya kumngcwabo kaMhlekazi uLiphaku uye wasifumana ngoba ndasicela kwathiwa asikho ngelo xesha.
I have indicated in this commission that we didn't have that recording.
Ndibekile kule commission okokuba sinayo irecord yalo ntetho.
No, that's the first time you are making that indication.
Yaqala ukuyiva ke loo nto.
And are you also equally saying that there's no recording in existence of your press conference on the 17th and that of General Mbombo? A SABC recording, I'm asking.
Uthi ke ne-record la lento wayuyiveza phaya kwizintatheli awunalo nale yayithethwa nguGeneral Mbombo kani nayo into ebhalwe phansi.
I've also said yes, we don't have.
Ewe nditshilo basinayo.
There is a chairperson, if I may, pass a document which will be an exhibit. I had given it to Mr. Semenya last week so that he, insofar as it relates to the records, rather to the recordings, so that he could satisfy himself.
Giving us copies or not?
No, Chairperson.
Okay, so you're giving us now?
I am, yes.
And your learned friends for the...
It's just one line, Chairperson.
Yeah, okay, but your learned friends, have they also got copies or been given copies?
They will.
I see. That's being attended to.
Yes.
Umhlekazi Mpofu ukhipha oluxwebhu ngokolinikeza kwi-chairman nakubameli okuyintetho aye wayinikeza umhlekazi uSiminya uthi uzawubuza imibuzo ngalo ngoku.
Yes. If there are some...
Am I correct in thinking that triple F 30 is the next exhibit?
That's correct, Chair.
Is it the transcript of the Rylands video, Mr. Mpofu? Is that how I describe it? Mr. Mpofu? Mr. Mpofu?
Yes.
Do I describe this as transcript Rylands video?
Yes, got it, Chairperson. Transcript Rylands video 26, maybe to be exact, in case there's another one later.
Captain Rylands.
Is it 25? Oh, there's also 25. It's 26, Chairperson.
All right. It will be marked exhibit triple F30.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Chair, just to be clear, there is another exhibit of a transcript of Captain Ryland's video.
That's fine. This one is 26.
That's triple G 36. So I'm just wondering if we shouldn't make this triple G 36.1.
Oh, yes.
To keep it with the other transcript.
I'd agree with that, Chairperson. It's actually the same conversation. The only difference is that here we've translated the Sesotho parts.
Triple G 36.1.
I wasn't on microphone. I'm sorry, I'll change the exhibit description now to exhibit triple G 36.1.
Izawuba ngo triple G 36.1 le ngoba yongeza kule enye yavela ekuyi video ka Captain Rylands.
Yes. Right. I'm just going to refer you, just for background, sorry, General. This transcript, as Ms. Pillay has correctly pointed out, was given, but obviously whoever was doing the transcription could not understand the Sesotho parts, and we've just inserted those. It's in the same genre as what you and I discussed at the beginning about.
It would be helpful if we had the Sesotho portions translated. Is it Sesotho, is it?
Yes.
In the vernacular portions. If we had them translated as well, but...
I'm hoping that, yes, we will, thank you, Chairperson, that's a valid point. But I'm hoping to test the interpretations with the witness.
I can't remember what the first language of the National Commission is. I seem to remember it was Sepedi, but let's ask her. What is your home language, your mother tongue, National Commissioner?
Sepedi.
Sepedi. Now, Sepedi, of course, is Northern Sotho, and presumably someone who speaks Northern Sotho can understand 95% of something in Southern Sotho. Is that right?
Most of the experts we get in the courts only know about 80% of what they're talking about. But for background, let's start with before we even go to the Sotho. Can you look at entry 0042 to 0046? I'm sorry. You have the same document. Triple G 36.1. New one that's just arrived now. Yes, that one. If you can read for us against the entry 0042 to 0046.
0042 ukuya ku 0046.
Okay. Before I read that, Judge, can I just, what is this that you are asking me to read?
This is a transcript of the soundtrack of a video taken by Captain Rylands, who's one of the members of the police service who was present at scene 2. We've seen the video already. We've listened to the soundtrack, but the point being made is that there were portions of the soundtrack in the vernacular which were not translated. So they've had it transcribed again with the portions of the vernacular. I can't remember whether the portions in the Afrikaans vernacular were translated, but certainly the portions in the Sesotho vernacular weren't. The passage he wants you to look at, the same time I read, it reads Ryland, which I take it indicates it's the captain's voice. Papom live, die iniki, popom live. Is that correct? That's the passage you want?
That's the one, Chairperson.
Kuthiwa le video iyavela yayithathwe nguCaptain Rylands ngoku ke la ngamazwi avela kulo mfanekiso owawuthetha ngeAfrikaans kube sekubakho apha kuthetha khona ngeSesotho engazange iphendulele lo ntetho ngoku apha iphendulele njengoba izofundwa.
Can you see that part, General?
Before I see that, I want to be clear. Is it the translation you gave me as homework and you asked me to go and listen to?
Yes, it's the Rylands videos, yes, were part of the homework about a week or so ago, yes.
Okay.
Uyakhumbula unnika umsebenzi okokuba ndiye ekhaya ndiyomamela ezinto ndizimamele kakuhle uthi ewe ezinye zazo ezo.
And I did listen, I didn't hear. I think it's important for me to do that, to tell you that when I listened, I did my homework.
Yes.
And I didn't understand. So you are saying somebody had a better ear. This is the person with a better ear.
Yes. Okay, Chandra, let me explain how we are proposing to do this. First, I gave you the homework.
Yes.
And then, as I say, I gave the transcript to your legal team last week so that they themselves could go to the people upstairs and listen and satisfy themselves. So it's either they've done that or they have not done it. If they've done it, then they are satisfied that this is what it says on the tape. If they have not done so, then obviously they are taking the risk that maybe later they'll find someone, as you put it, with a better ear, in which case we'll deal with it. But for now, just deal with it on the basis that this is the transcript. If that is wrong for some reason, we will apologize to the Commission and all sorts of things will happen. But that's why we took those precautions. Thank you. So,
but Judge, I just want to say it is important for me as a witness to actually say, I did my homework, I took what you gave me, I listened, and indeed the inaudible places remained inaudible to me.
Yes. No, in fairness to you, General.
Yes.
In fairness to you, I did say to Mr. Semenya when I gave him the document that even for us, when we played it on a sort of normal TV, we couldn't pick up those parts. We had to use earphones. So I can believe what you're saying. But for now, I think let's just move on. All those will be done. We can't do them right now. Will be done. Yes. So, okay, I'll just read out the parts and then I'll ask you the question. The first one is the one that the judge has already read. Papum live, dieniki, papum live.
Yes, pape as the first word and pop as the second. I'm not sure there was a misprint. Whether pape was said the first time and pop was said the second time.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not quite sure. Perhaps Mr. Berger, who's a better Afrikaans linguist than I am, can tell us what either of those words mean in the context.
Dealing with POP is probably pop.
That will be a matter of argument. And then this one, fortunately, we don't need Mr. Berger's assistance. It's the next one is 0215, which to 0230. I'll read it out just out of respect for you.
215. We are good 230.
That motherfucker. I shot him at least 10 times. He keeps coming and coming. These things of 17 magazines keeps, and then someone else speaks. That's the second one that I'm referring to.
Apho ethetha khona lo muntu ebiza inhlamba embi athi umdubule kwaze kwakaninzi fika mahlandla alishumi kodwa uloku eza le zinto ebaziphathayo ezinamagazine imbumbe ezingu-17 igqibezela apho.
Violence is going to come.
We'll get to the witness if so directed, Chair, but the basis of my objection now is I really don't know where Mr. Mpofu is going, but if this witness is not able to understand and what prompted these comments, evidence would be again totally irrelevant.
Yes, I suspect that we're going to get the question about the highest standards of professionalism at the end. But am I right? You're reading some passages which you think you're going to submit reflect badly on the policemen concerned, and then the punch line or the final culminating question is going to be: is that in accordance with the highest standards of
something like
that? That's right. Well, let's
get that responsible policy.
Yeah, let's get that over with as quickly as we can.
Well, Chair, shouldn't the witness first tell us whether when she made that statement, all these utterances were known to her?
No. Mr. Semenya, that's not Mr. Mpofu's point. Mr. Mpofu, as I understand it, doesn't suggest that the witness knew all the things that he put to her. What he's asking her is whether she still says they're in accordance with the highest standards of professionalism. I think that's his point. It's marginally relevant, but I'm inclined to think in the interests of moving on, it's better to allow him to ask the question than not. So anyway, let him... Is that right? Am I right, Mr. Mpofu? You don't suggest for a moment that this witness knew about the Rylands video and what was on it when she made the statement she made?
No, Chairperson. That's why I had to play triple E16 for her to show the dragging, to show the boots, to show all those things. If I thought she knew all those things already, I wouldn't have played it for her. Right. The next one.
Umhlekazi uMpofu kokuba xa lento yenzeka njengolu hlobo ivele apha uzawubuza ekugqibeleni okokuba yindlela na amapolisa afanele asebenze ngayo le ebonisa ubupolisa obunenkathalo. Kumbuzo azawuza kuwo lo.
The next one was just the one below that. Yo, pet. I kimutubile, boss. Kimutubile, young. Kimutubile. Yeah.
Uthi elandelayo ifundeka ngolo hlobo ngesisuthu ithi
akiboni fela ge asino mushaya kamulamu king.
Ifundeka ngolo hlobo ke uthi lo muntu lona hey ndimhlakazile boss ndiyamhlakaza
Now we'll take it bit by bit. This is the part where the chair...
He's translated it from Sesotho into Xhosa.
He has already...
Are you still busy with it? Translating it into...
They're still busy with the last sentence. Yes.
When you've done that, would you be kind enough to help those of us who are linguistically challenged in another direction, translating it into English, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mahlang.
Into Xhosa, yes. Yes. Ithi apha ekugqibeleni ke akiboni fela hayi sino mushaya kamlamu apha sesisuthu nje sihlangene uthi angiboni xa ndingambetha ngentonga bese ke kuba isentence engaphelelanga. In English this would be your pet. I have blasted him. I blasted him young. I have blasted him. Yes. I don't see how it could be if I could hit him with a knob stick, and then the sentence is not complete.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm happy with that translation. Safe to remind the tribunal that earlier on the witness had agreed to a close interpretation, which was I have blown him apart, but I have blasted him. I'm happy with that. Right. Then the next one,
very confusing.
Is at 250 to 3.
Asi go 250, we are go 3.
And just for context, I'll read the whole thing, and Mr. Matlang will help us with the other parts. There's muti there. There's muti there. Yeah, all over the body. Leave it, leave it, leave it. And then unknown, another person. Yeah, that muti shit does not work here, Baba. Sunwako. Shona pants.
The translation in English would be, there's muti there. There's muti there. Yeah, all over the body. Leave it, leave it, leave it. Yeah, that muti shit does not work here. Baba. Baba means father, but it's a reference to any male person. Yeah, Baba. And then it says, Sunwako, this is very vulgar. It refers to your private parts. And then it says to that person, Shona Pansi, go down. He was insulting a person who was seated there. You're referring to his private parts and then saying to that person, go down. Shona Pansi.
Could you then please translate that into Xhosa for the benefit of those who want the Xhosa interpretation?
Apha ke mawethu uthi lo muntu lona lo mthi kukho umthi apho abesathi ewe kuwo wonke umzimba wakhe kunomthi miyeke bese kuthi ke omnye ongaziwa athi ya lento umthi ayisebenzi apha baba abesethi msunu wakho shona phansi.
The last one is at the bottom.
Yokugqibela ila
and I'll also read it in full for context. Blom ready positions boss. Yuri ya de gesin hoe die ding ons aanval, die ding vang ons sommer so. Wie Sibachane is latom tin. He had the meg or the mag. The meg, ja. Hij heeft de meg leeg gemaakt. Maar hij komt nog steeds. Meg, assume is magazine.
You have to translate the Afrikaans into English and then also into Xhosa. And I suspect that mag there is for abbreviation of the English word magazine, but you'll know better than I.
If I may say, Ms. Chairperson, and this sounds like the Afrikaans spoken by the colored population of the Western Cape. The word blom usually means sit, but I cannot say in this context it was sitting here. Blom, ready position, boss. That's how it read. And then he says, Yiri, het jy gesien hoe die ding ons aanval? Die ding vang ons sommer so. Did you see how this thing attacks us? This thing just comes, die ding vang ons sommer so. This thing just catches up and is like this or unaware. Wie Sebachane slaat om 10. That one is not really. Wie Sebachane slaat om 10. Sebachane hit him 10 times. He emptied his stomach, but he still.
I suspect it may be the magazine of the firearm.
Or the mag, not the mag, the mag, yeah.
Well,
he emptied his magazine.
Maybe Captain Rylands, if he comes, can tell us how he understood it. But
yes.
I suspect it's his magazine.
Yes. Mag here is another one of those terms used there. And the mag, he emptied his magazine, my comsteads, but he's still coming. Uthi apha ke ngesixhosa lo mfo obhala apha usebenzisa eligama elithi blom elisetshenziswayo xa bethi blom besho kubahlala phansi uthi ke ready boss yiba ready ubesethi uyibonile lento okokuba isihlasela ngoluphi uhlobo usibamba nje singanyazelele ubesethi ke wambetha zalishumi wayibetha yaphela yonke imagazini phezu kwakhe kodwa uloku esiza.
Yes. Thank you. General, I just want to try and save time. I'll round off. I'll ask you a kind of rounded question that covers all the statements. And without belaboring the point, I'd like you to confirm to the Commission that those statements, including those made in Sesotho, are vulgarities, as Mr. Mahlangu has suggested, which have no place in a humane police service that you and the SABC legal team have made us to believe you were running.
Uthi umhlakazi Mpofu le nto ibifundwa apha ke xa sesithatha amanye amagama lawa asetshenziswa azizithuko nyani awunawuvuma okokuba yindlela yesiponisa esinenkathalo ekufanele isebenze ngayo kulamapolisa owaphethe.
Judge, let me just put it this way before I answer that question.
Ngokuba ndiphendule lo mbuzo judgment beke ngolu hlobo.
I have a problem with all these versions of information as presented to me to respond to.
Ndinengxaki nyani ngiphezu kwayo yonke le nto kufanele ndijongane nayo kube ndime ndiyiphendulayo ngoku.
First, there was the translation that I was given to, which had a lot of gaps.
Kukho le translation apho yayiphendulele khona le ntetho kwakukho intetho kwizinto ezininzi ezingevakali.
I was asked to go and listen, which I did, and again I came out unclear.
Ndacela okokuba mandiyithathe ndike ndiyoyimamela mna ndaya ndayimamela ndangeva nto.
Today there's a version here that sounds more like Fanakalo that is being presented to
intetho
us.
elana enyani hlanganisiwe njengayifanakalo ebekwe phambi kwethu.
And perhaps at some point really if one is to start commenting and putting opinions on the matter, we may need people with better equipment, ability to read this type of things, and then maybe we can respond to those. At this point in time, I find it very difficult to accept the statement that has been read today.
Mna okokuba ndibe nempendulo kule nto nyhani ngaphambi kokuba sithole abantu anobuchule obungaphezulu abakwazi ukuba basifundele basichazele le ntetho njengoba injalo.
Yes, thank you, General. No, that's understandable.
General.
But you see, how these things work is that you are a very busy person. We don't want to bring you back here in 2 months' time just for the sake of listening to this. So for now, please just believe that the question is simply as follows. If these translations are correct, and that if depends on, if Mr. Semenya, for some reason, I can 1,000% sure about this. If he picks even one word that is incorrect, him and I will sit down and as colleagues we will agree and will inform the commissioners and so on and so on. So take that for granted, that will happen. In fact, he doesn't even have to listen. If I listen to and find something wrong, I'm duty bound to come and say, no, that word was not correct and so on. So accept all that. Now, if after all those processes, these translations are found to be correct, would you agree that they display vulgarities which have no place in a humane and compassionate police and all the other things that you said the police are doing?
Umbuzo kaMhlekazi uMpofu yilo okokuba sizakwenza yonke imizamo okokuba sijonge okokuba inyaniso neto kodwa ke xa siyamukela okokuba lento ithethwe apha inyaniso nezi zithuko ezivele apha ziyinyaniso uzawuvumelana nami okokuba akuyona nyani intetho ekufanele isetshenziswe kumsebenzi onobupolisa obunenkathalo nendlela imimiselo ibeka ngayo pha ebupoliseni?
Advocate, I think the if factor will remain a very serious bother for me in answering questions in this commission. Because the if factor, you are actually saying, being the national commissioner, I must make very serious comments about things that I would have considered very rationally and objectively. I'm saying to you, these versions, this translation, I am very concerned to put my comments on this type of issues. I wouldn't even mind coming back if we have had people who have listened to this all these versions and have given us a translation, then I can comment.
Ubeyibeke ngolo hlobo umhlekazi uMpofu ngoba siyazi ngoba ngumuntu obhizi nyana sifuna ukuba sikubize uphinde uze apha uthi ucommissioner andithanda ukuba ndibeke wami umbono kwintetho enjengale xa bukhona ubungqina bomuntu onobuchule obuphezulu ozokwazi ukuba sichazele le ntetho andinawuba nengxaki ukuba ndibuye ndizophendula lo mbuzo kodwa kwangoku andinakuba nampendulo kule ntetho sivele kude kube ngoku.
Mpofu will take the tea adjournment now.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Yaphuma iCommission masithathe itiye manikeni ime ngezinyawo. Besicela okokuba kungabikho umuntu ohambayo please kuze kuphume iCommissioner. Commission commences. Masukumen.
Commission resumes. National Commissioner, you still under oath, Mr. Mpofu?
Commissioner usaphansi kwesifungo. Yawuchubeka umhlekazi Mpofu.
Thank you, Chairperson. Commissioner, before we move on, I just want to once again clarify the question I'm putting to you. In paragraph 39 of the opening statement of the police, among other things, it says the South African Police Service is committed to humane policing in a humane, I suppose, spelled human, but I'm sure they meant humane. Humane policing in a humane society. You yourself have thanked the police for what they did, and you have described their work as the best of responsible policing.
Uthi xa sifunda phaya kwi-statement sokuvula samapolisa kukho apha kuthiwa khona amapolisa injongo yawo kokuba onke amaxesha asebenze ngendlela ebonisa ubuntu.
And all I'm putting to you is that in the same way as the images that I showed you of policemen placing a boot on somebody's body, dragging people, laughing around them, and all the things that we dealt with when we resumed our cross-examination, that the statements, those were actions, physical actions. Now I'm showing you verbal actions, if you like, which fall into the same genre, as I said. And what I'm putting to you is that if these statements are indeed as they appear in the document in front of you, then they do not, A, represent a commitment to humane policing in a humane society or the best of responsible policing. And there's nothing for you to direct your gratitude towards. What do you say to that?
Uthinika kulontetho general xa ndithi kwimifanekiso endiyenda kubonisana yona nezinto endiyenda azibeka apha phambi kwakho amanye amapolisa enyathelo umuntu ngebhutsu apha ebusweni omnye mkhuqa phansi nalamazwi aye avela awunakusho okokuba usenako ukwancoma amapolisa okokuba enze umsebenzi wawo ngendlela efanele ehambelana nembeko nobuntu emapoliseni.
I shall say to you, Advocate, that there is a lot that I have to express my gratitude to in terms of the operation that took place.
Izawuthi ke kuwe Advocate zininzi izinto ekufanele ndizincome kumsebenzi ebabejongene nawo ngelo xesha.
And I shall also say in a large operation such as that one.
Ikakhulu kwisehlakalo esikhulu njengalesi esasenzeka ngelo xesha.
There may be one or two errors, and those we will look into. As this commission finishes, we will look at those errors. But ordinarily, the operation was indeed delivered in a humane manner.
Ngaphandle kokuthi ke kukho impazamo ezenzeka apho nalapho esizokuthi ekugqibeleni kwale commission sikwazi ukujongana nazo ubuninzi nje balomsebenzi obewenzeka phaya uhambe ngemfanelo nangesidima.
So, going back to where we started, you and I accept, I think as Mr. Semenya has pointed out, and the chairperson has confirmed, I accept that all the things that I've shown you, starting with the material from the videos to this, were not things that you necessarily knew when you made your statement of gratitude and best of responsible policing, what have you. The question I'm asking you is now, as you're sitting there, now that I've pointed all these things to you, is your answer that you're not prepared to withdraw, qualify your statements about gratitude for whatever happened, and thank you for what you did? You're not prepared to do that?
Uthi umhlekazi ku general ndiyavuma okokuba ngeli xesha usenza le ntetho ubongenalo ulwazi lemfanekiso le eye ndakubonisa yona nezi zintetho zivela apha emaphepheni. Ngoku umbuzo okokuba kude kube ngoku awuzimiselanga na ukuba uyiphendule loo ntetho owawuncoma ngayo aba bantu utsho okokuba kwenzeke limpazamo.
No, I am not, because I've already indicated in my previous answer to you that there is a lot that I have gratitude for.
Thank you.
Njengoba benditshilo kokokuba ininzi into ekufanele
Well, I get the impression you're taking the point as far as you can. I can understand that there are points you may wish to advance in argument, but whether they are good points or bad points, it's not appropriate to decide now. But I imagine you've got the material upon which you base the argument.
Yes.
So may I suggest you move on to another point?
Yes, that question was meant exactly for that purpose.
Qinisihlalo uthi ke le ntetho eveza ngumhlekazi uMpofu ngoku makube intetho ezawuvezwa phaya kwintetho mpikiswano izokwazi ukujongisisa ngelo xesha.
And I put it to you that this kind of behavior and language betrays not a so-called compassionate and humane police force, but one that was motivated by anger, malice, and even a sense of revenge. What will you say to that?
Uthini ke xa ndiyibeka kuwo kokuba yonke le nto eyenzeka phaya ebendiyibonisa apha noku nentetho le ivele lapha phambili bekuyinto ebayenza ngokuba baziphindisele kuyinto echasene nenkambiso indlela efanele kusetshenzwe ngayo phansi kwemimiselo yamapolisa.
I've disagreed and I shall continue to disagree because I do not believe that we as police had what you are putting forward.
Andivumelani nawe nyani andiboni thina njengamapolisa okokuba sasiyenza lento njengento eyimpindiselo asizange siyenze ngolo hlobo.
And you remember, before we move to what I call the next game changer, you remember where we started with this was that the events of the 13th, in particular the killing of the policemen, are what produced this sort of brutality, well, I don't think it's anything short of that, and strong language and unlawful actions. And what I want to put to you is that the police themselves knew that some of the policemen would be so affected by the killing of their fellow policemen that they would lose their professionalism or that they would no longer be able to function as expected.
Mr.
What do you say to that?
When you say the police knew, exactly who are you referring to?
Okay. Let me say SABS or the leadership of SABS on the ground knew that because of the killing of the policemen in particular, some of their members would be so affected as not to be able to carry on their duties as expected, and that these were just demonstrations thereof. What do you say to that?
Imbangela yayo yonke lento sisehlakalo somhla ka-13 August xa kubulawa amapolisa amabili. Uthi ngoku inkokheli zamapolisa aba baphezulu bebesazi emva koko okuba amapolisa awana aphatheke kakubi ngokubulawa kogxa babo phaya nabo bazokwenza ezi zinto ngalindlela ebayenza echasene nomthetho nendlela ekufanele basebenze ngayo.
Yeah, you have your light on.
I was going to say that, Chair, the word leadership does not answer Commissioner Hemraj's inquiry. We want to be able to bring those witnesses so that they can refute the allegations that is being put to them. You just say the leadership knew. to me suggests even premeditated murder.
Okay.
Uthi umhlekazi Semenya xa umhlekazi uMpofu ethi inkokheli zamapolisa ziyenze zazi lento kuchaza oko kokuba bayaphala bayokubulala ababantu ngenjongo ngokuyokubabulala uthi uzawabiza lamanqina azokuyikhanyela lento.
Yeah, my next question to you, Mr. Mpofu, was going to be, are you suggesting that the commanders that have been named are the persons who knew about this?
Maybe my next question will clarify, Commissioner Hemraj. The proposition that I'm putting to you really is this, that to your knowledge, members of the police who were present during the operation knew that some of the policemen would be so affected by the killing of other policemen that they would not be able to function normally to the extent that is expected of them.
Umbuzo emva kokuba ebuza umama uHemraj kokuba uthetha ngenkokheli ezipapasha ngamagama apha uthi usho abebaphethe apho emapoliseni kokuba xa kwenzeka lento bebaza kokuba lamapolisa azawuya kwenza umsebenzi phaya akwanakwazi ukuzibamba emva kokuba kwenzeke lento ngoxa babo.
Chair, we still require specificity. We had General Annandale there. It was not put to him that he knew that those people would because of the events of Monday, kill the others.
I seem to remember that when he was asked a question along those lines, and he said he couldn't say, if the provincial commissioner might be able to, but if he couldn't, and it's a matter for the provincial commissioner, I don't see the point in asking this witness the question. But Mr. Mpofu, aren't you asking this question of the wrong witness?
General Annandale wabuza naye lo mbuzo akakwazanga uphendula wathi abo bebaphethe apho ngabo abazokwazi ukuphendula lo mbuzo.
Okay, once again I have to show my hand. I have to say where I'm going with this.
Akonokwazi ukuphendula lo mbuzo ngoba ubengekho.
You have testified that you approved the opening statement of the police, correct?
Andithi wathi uvumelana naso istatement esesenziwe kuvule ngaso samapolisa?
Yes.
Ewe.
In that statement, paragraph 35 says the following.
Kweso statement kwisivakalisi sika 35 kuthethwa ngolu hlobo.
When police officers are targeted, the police service steps in, suppressing the human response of the moment in order to render a professional service. Suppressing the human response of the moment in order to render a professional service. Some members who may have been affected by the death of their colleagues in the events of Monday, 13th August 2012, were removed from Marikana and posted elsewhere. That's the statement which you approved.
Uthiwa phaya kuleso statement amapolisa abekhona xa kwenzeka esisehlo somhla ka13 apho kubulawa khona oXabawu asuswa apho ngoba kubonakala ukuba lento ayibaphathisa kakuhle bayobeka kwezinye izindawo apho beyosebenza khona. This statement uvumelana naso eso?
The statement doesn't say who are all these things that Mr. Semenya is asking. But what it does say is that some of the members were removed from Marikana because of the knowledge that the deaths of their colleagues would have so affected them that it might suppress the human response of the moment in order to render a professional service.
Uthiwa ngeso sizathu ke basuswa abo abanye babekhona apho ngokuthi babonile into eyenzeke phaya bangaphatheki kabi ngokusweleka koXabawu basuswa apho ngesizathu sokuthi babone ukuthi bazohluleka ukuthi bazibambe.
Chair, that opening statement contends to the contrary, and I don't understand where Mr. Mpofu is going.
Okay, I'll assist my learned colleague. The only proposition I'm putting is that if the police realized, even before the 16th, that some of their own would have been so affected by the death of their colleagues, as it says here, to such an extent that they had to be removed because they may not be able to render a professional service. Then it was then to the knowledge of this witness when she approved the statement, at least if no other time. The proposition that the grand or the big proposition which I had put in terms of what I call game changer 2, namely that the deaths of the police on the 13th were such a game changer to the extent that they denuded or removed the sense of professionalism from the police, to the extent that they had to do and say all the vulgarities and the brutality that I've shown to the witness.
uthi umhlakazi njengoba sechilo kokuba izehlakalo zomhla ka-13 August xa kubulawa amapolisa amabili iyona into eyatshintsha yonke imeko apho ukuze sibone lindlela amapolisa aziphatha ngayo phaya nalezi zithuko ezivezwa apha emaphepheni uthi imbangela yakhona kukusweleka kwala mapolisa amabili phaya.
Mr. Professor, I don't see the nexus between what was described in the passage you read from the opening statement and what we see here in Triple G 36.1, because the picture that one saw in the video was a situation where it is contended by the police that the members of the police who were there were being attacked, and it will be contended that in self-defense or private defense they responded. Now, if people, even if they weren't there on the 13th, are at scene 2 on the 16th, and they're being attacked, assuming for the moment that that's correct, something we may have to find as to the circumstance in which they were there and so on, then they will react in a particular way, and they mightn't always speak the English that Dr. Bardley would approve of, or that you would find used in polite drawing rooms. But how can you show, or base a contention, that this behavior, this vulgar speech, was caused by the fact that these people, or some of them, were on the scene on the 13th?
No.
The nexus seems to me to be missing, unless I'm not understanding the question properly.
No, I'm afraid you're not, Chairperson.
Chairperson,
that is not what I'm putting. It's got nothing to do with the presence at all. All I'm putting is this. Assume that they were attacked. Assume that they were acting under self-defense. Assume all those things. I'm saying that the behavior that I have displayed of dragging people, of insulting them, of all the things that I have shown to the general, assuming all those things to be so, do not display the requisite professionalism from a police force that is attacked or not attacked. So the issue of whether they're attacked doesn't come into it, number one. Number two, I'm not suggesting that necessarily they were present on the 13th. I will show actually just that one of the captains, when he was briefing the TRT members, said to the police, just in case they were not there on the 13th, remember these people have killed people, innocent people, and so on and so on. Just, so whether they were present or not, once again, does not come into it. That's not the proposition I'm putting. I'm simply saying that, and I'm not even saying it's the sole cause.
I'd like to know what proposition you are putting, not the proposition you're not putting, but the proposition you are putting.
Yes. Well, I first have to de-ascribe the one that's ascribed to me first, and then I'll say what I'm putting. Also, what I'm not saying is that it's the sole cause for them behaving unprofessionally. All I'm saying, Chair, is this, that the killing of the police, to the knowledge of themselves and of this witness, so affected some of them that they even had to be removed. And what I'm going to argue, obviously, at the end, is that they didn't remove enough. That some of those who displayed the vulgar behavior that I've displayed were motivated inter alia, I'm prepared to concede that, by the same inability to render a professional service that has been displayed here. Thank you.
Into ayibekayo Mhlekazi Mpofu kokuba anditsho kokuba izizathu kwabasesiya somhla ka-13 kuphela kodwa ke ndithi noma babasusa ababasusanga bonke abanye benzeka ngokuphatheka kakubi ngokusweleka koogxa babo kubahluleka ukuziphatha ngembeko nangendlela efanele ngaphansi kwemithetho nemimiselo yamapolisa.
You've lost me. I still don't understand the proposition you're putting. Okay. If I don't understand it, then I don't think, and it may be my fault, but if I don't understand it, then I can't expect the witness to understand it either. So if you could put it with greater clarity, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Uthi Chairperson ngoba yena ngokwakhe engayivisisi nyani lento ethethwa ngumhlekazi Mpofu umbuzo wayo ubona okokuba nale elingqina linongxaki uthi mayibuzwe ngenye indlela lo mbuzo ecacile.
Okay, General, I'm going to put a simple proposition to you and you can agree or disagree. If members of the police were of the view that some of their number were so affected by the death of their colleagues that they had to be removed and posted elsewhere, then I will argue that that demonstrates that they knew that those members who had to be removed were being removed, among other things, because of what is said in paragraph 35, namely the potential inability to render a professional service.
Mandibeke ngolhlobo kokuba inkokheli zamapolisa zayibona kunesidingo sokuba emva kwesehlakalo lesi apho kusweleke khona amapolisa babasuse abo bebekhona ngoba bebona okokuba leyo nto ibaphathe kabuhlungu ngokuthi bazohluleka ukuziphatha ngendlela nemfanelo nenkambiso yamapolisa.
Chair,
you've turned your light on.
That contention requires no answer from this witness. It is the police case, it's not even an if, that the people were removed who were believed may have been affected by the events of the 13th. They were not part of the 16th operation, some of them.
Mr. Semenya, you remember that Major General Annandale was asked about this. And I seem to remember Advocate Jelly asked him a number of questions about the debriefing. And it turned out there are two types of debriefing. The one kind is what one can call sort of emotional debriefing, where they interviewed people who'd been involved in the incident to see whether they were emotionally affected, whether they were traumatized. And those were given therapy in some cases, and in other cases, actually removed from the operation for the very reasons that are set out in paragraph 35. Now, it may be that you want to argue that the choice of those to be removed wasn't done adequately. There were some others who should have been removed. But I'm not sure that this witness can answer that question. Maybe you must... You remember he also said that this was a matter that fell under the provincial commissioner. Remember when he was asked about that. Now, these are questions you may well wish to ask the provincial commissioner, and when you ask them, I'll allow them. Yeah. But I don't know that this witness can help us very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll leave it. But for the record, let it be shown that I'm only asking this witness insofar as she has confirmed to this commission that she approved the statement, and therefore to her knowledge these things happened. But I won't pursue it any further. That's all I'm doing.
That she approved the statement, you've established that, and that may well form a basis of argument at a later stage.
Izawuvela le ngxele
But anyway,
kwintetho mpikiswano ngoba uthi umhlekazi uSimenya
move on to the next point.
I'll move on. Thank you, Chairperson. No, before I move on, just would you also accept? I'm going to also argue that there is a direct link between the killing of the policemen specifically and the death threats that were made to General Mpembe. In other words, what I'm saying is that people like Mirafe, who threatened to kill Mpembe, would not have threatened to kill him had it not been for the fact that their colleagues, policemen, had been killed. In other words, if it was civilians who had been killed.
Mandibeke ngolhlobo kokuba isehlakalo somhla ka-13 August xa kubulawa amapolisa kwaba yimbangela yokokuba kubekho ugrogriso lokubulawa kwaGeneral Mpembe ngabantu abafana noMirafi.
Mr. Semenya wants to say something, but my recollection is that Marafi was not there on the 16th.
Exactly.
According to his statement, he was somewhere else.
No, I'm not talking about...
We may well discover that he was somewhere else because the provincial commissioner sent him there for the very reasons that you say. So he's a bad example, actually.
No, that's a misunderstanding, Chair, on your part. With respect, I'm not talking about the 16th. I'm not talking about the 16th.
There's another point that I'm reminded. Marafi's statement doesn't say he made death threats. My recollection of his statement was he heard the death threats, and therefore he considered it appropriate for steps to be taken to ensure that those death threats weren't implemented.
No. No, that's also incorrect. That's Vermaak. You're mistaking it with Vermaak. What? That's not correct, Chair. What happened?
Does Marafi say in his statement that he threatened to kill?
No.
Mpembe he doesn't say that.
It doesn't. Vermaak says Marafi threatened to kill.
No. But Marafi hasn't come here. You can't put it as a statement of fact. You could say possibly that Vermaak says it, but you can't put it higher than that, can you?
Okay.
Vermaak
says that Mirafi wanted to kill Mpembe. You remember, we've gone through that.
Uyakhumbula Vermaak esithi nguMirafi lo wayefuna ubulala uMpembe.
You've got your light on. What do you want to say?
That is misquoting the evidence of the statement of Colonel Vermaak.
Okay.
But most importantly, Chair, Mr. Mpofu cannot keep disguising irrelevant questions by stating that is his argument. Is he going to be giving us evidence, direct evidence of these propositions he's making?
Well, I've told you he doesn't, of course, have to give direct evidence. Provided there's evidential material which gives rise to a circumstantial evidence argument. So direct evidence isn't all he requires. But I'm inclined to agree with your view that the ruling I've made several times, it's no good asking this witness for her views on certain things, because if these are matters that we have to decide, her views with retrospect are irrelevant. And that's why on a number of occasions I've upheld objections that the cross-examination is not appropriate because it's irrelevant. Obviously it doesn't mean that Mr. Mpofu can't argue these points later if there's circumstantial evidence that supports the proposition he's putting up, but that's a different matter.
We concede, Chair, if there is circumstantial evidence, then we will be pointed to it, that based on A and B and C, the argument will rest on A, B, and C to contend why.
Okay.
Then the witness would be able to respond to it.
Okay. Xa kukho ubungqina obubekwe phezu kwengcingo mhlawumbe phezu kwemeko ethize mayibekwe leyo meko akwazi ukuba phendule phezu kwayo.
I don't want to hamper your cross-examination, because I know you've got a difficult duty to discharge, and you must be given every opportunity. But the fact is, when the evidential material is before the Commission, such as statements in the paragraphs in the opening statement, evidence of other witnesses and so on, you don't have to repeat it to this witness and get her views for the reasons I've explained in the past. It will still be open to you to argue the point, and if a witness comes who's directly affected with the proposition you're putting, you can ask the witness.
That I appreciate, Chairperson, and honestly I don't want to belabor this point. All I'm doing is what has been done since this commission started, of putting a proposition that comes from the police statements themselves, and which actually we've dealt with this issue with this witness. All I'm saying is that if you go to Vermaak, Chairperson, paragraph 5, you'll see that he says, van die lede het saam met my teruggeloop en was baie ontsteld gewees en aan my gemeld dat die hele generaal-majoor Mpembe kwalik neem vir die lede wat dood is en dat hy verkeerde opdragte gegee het. Hulle het aan my gesê dat...
So, Mr. Mpofu, this passage is being read in Afrikaans. I think it's been read in English already. among the members who walked back with me were some who were very upset or disturbed and who mentioned to me that they were very angry with Major General Mpembe for the members who were dead and that he'd given wrong instructions. They said to me that Major General Mpembe today would go and lie together with these members on the ground because they were going to shoot him.
Yes.
I immediately realized that it was a very explosive situation, and I telephoned the Provincial Commissioner and informed her of the threat and informed her further that I was going to remove him from the scene. I went directly to him, informed him that I was going to remove him from the scene because of the threat to his life. I arranged for an Inyala vehicle with 2 members to take him away to the ops. That's the passage that we've had before, and I've translated it for you and for the witness.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay. Now that doesn't say, of course, that Marafi was one of the threateners.
Well, General Anandale confirmed that, but that's not important. Diliede, say Diliede. I don't care who it is. Diliede. That's enough for me.
No. The leader of the members, you put directly to the witness that the evidence was, and you said, Lieutenant Colonel Vermaak said it, that one of those who threatened to kill General Mpembe was Marafi.
Yes.
I just read that passage to you to indicate that that proposition was inaccurate. And certainly Major General Annandale, who wasn't there, was in the jock the whole time, wasn't able to add anything further. In fact, he wasn't there at the time. That was on the 13th. He wasn't even there at the time. Major General Annandale wasn't able to take that any further. So that's the high watermark of that allegation. And the proposition you put to the witness was incorrect because it went beyond that.
That's fine. So I know what Annandale said. I don't want to go there. Let's leave it at Diliede. Do you know that some of the members, nameless, ordered to kill Mpembe?
Yathethwa ngamalunga amapolisa singabeki igama kokuba ngubani lo owayethi behoriza ngokubulala uMpembe. Uyayazi ukuba khona leyo nto yesihorizo sokubulawa kaGeneral uMpembe na?
I'm going to answer you in 2 ways. One,
phendula ngendlela ezimbili. Eyokuqala,
I would know that as reports, as I read the statement that is done by Vermaak.
Ndizawuthi ndiyinto endiyive kwistatement besithethwa nguColonel Vermaak.
And that you are also saying that is Diliede nameless.
Apha uphinde uthi evakala loo nto ithethwa ngamalunga umbutho wamapolisa.
And you say they are nameless.
Aba bantu ke abavezwanga ngamagama.
And thirdly, that General Mbombo is here, who is going to come here. She is the one who was phoned by Vermaak, and I'm sure she can talk about the nameless people and the allegation by Vermaak.
General Mbombo uzawubizwa ke njengengqina apha nguye ozawuchaza owafonelwa nguVermaak xa emnikeza amagama uzokwazi ukuveza ukuba ngobani nobani abo bantu.
Okay. General, let's make this very easy. The only proposition I'm putting to you is that the threats that were made to Mpembe, it was said that he should some medardeliede op de grond gaan lê, that he, Mpembe, should be lying down together with those members who are dead. And the only simple proposition I'm putting to you is that those death threats were made because other members of the police had been killed, not because civilians were killed. It was, the threats were directly linked with some mediliede op de grond. Do you understand?
Lento eyayithethwa ke ithi uGeneral Mpembe kufanele ayolala phansi nalawo malunga aswelekile naye abulawe. Yayibangele ukuba kwakungamapolisa abulewa hayi abahlali nje. Yiyo into yayibilisa amalungu amapolisa.
I think I've given you my understanding of this.
Yacinga okokuba sendikuchazela okokuba mna ndiyibona ngoluphi uhlobo lento.
Okay, thank you. We'll leave that for argument if that's your final answer. Now, going back to the 10 principles, and once again, if you somehow don't remember that we agreed on this, I will take you to the prescripts. But is it correct that you and I have agreed that one of the most important principles coming out of the prescripts is that the police should act impartially?
Andithi uvumela okokuba enye yemimiselo okokuba amapolisa akufanelanga akhethe icala.
Agreed?
Yes, I do.
Ewe ndiyavuma.
And the very first words of Section 218 of the Constitution, which has been retained, say that, where it talks about the responsibilities of the National Commissioner, subject to Section 214 and the directions of the Minister referred to in 216, which you can ignore, the National Commissioner shall be responsible for A, the maintenance of an impartial, accountable, transparent and efficient police service. It's the very first one of about 12 or 13 sections. The first word that is imposed upon you is the duty for impartiality. Accept that.
Enye into ke efundeka phaya kumgaqo-seko welilizwe ku-section 218 apho kunikezwa khona amagunyana emisebenzi ka-National Commissioner umphathi jikelele wamapolisa okokuba uzakwenza okokuba ngalo onke amaxesha kube khona amapolisa phansi kwakho angathathi icala.
Yes, I do.
And Section 195(1)(d) of the Constitution, which Mr. Semenya read to you in chief, also requires for the public service to be impartial, correct?
Na ku section 195 eyafundwa apha ithi abasebenzi njena bombuso bonke bafanele kube ngabantu abenza umsebenzi ngaphandle kokuba bakhethe icala.
Kiniti.
That is true.
And Section 25 of the Act, which going down the ladder of the prescripts, also prescribes for impartiality. So does, just to save time, paragraph 2.2.5 of FFF1, and so does paragraph 34 of the police opening statement, which says, when death, injury or damage results from internecine conflict among any other constituencies, the police service steps up and conducts itself impartially.
Na ku statement ke sokuvula samapolisa ikhona lento kuba amapolisa abeziphethe ngendlela efanele angakhethi icala kuleyo yonke lento eyenzeka apho.
Gitereshu.
That is the truth.
You also agree that
uthi inyani leyo Gitereshu.
So, okay. So the prescripts definitely require this. You agree that a large percentage of the work that the police do involves disputes of some sort between alleged victims and alleged perpetrators and those kinds of parties, correct?
Andithi yazi into yokuba ubuninzi bomsebenzi wamapolisa kubakho impikiswano phakathi kommangali nalo omangalele baphikisana ngezinto ezithize kunjalo.
There are also those issues among others.
Ewe zikhona izinjekezo phakathi kokunye.
And it would be in those typical situations of conflict or disputes that the police need to display their impartiality the most, correct?
Kwizinto ezinjengezo ke apho amapolisa afanele abonise khona kokuba wona awekho kwelicala noma kweli afuna nje inyaniso.
I think overall they must show impartiality.
Ewe ninzi nibexesha kufanele benze ngalonde basebenze ngalonde.
And you would know as a social scientist that in society there is what some might call an inherent conflict between capital and labor, so to speak, between business people and workers, if you don't want to use the grand terms.
Mandithi ke uyazi apha ekuhlaleni kukho ukungevani imbambano ehlala iba khona phakathi kwabaqeshi nongqowankulu nalabo abaphethe ezamabhizinisi.
Maybe I don't understand the context of what you're asking.
Andivisisi kahle into usuyibuza ngoku mhlekazi.
Do you know or don't you know, as a person who has studied social sciences, that there is, in situations such as the one that we're discussing here, a situation of conflict between what some call capital and labor, or to put it in simple English, between the working people and those that own the means of production. Don't know if that's simple English.
Njengoba ndisho nje kwizifundo ezo wazifunda ze social science kukho apho kubekwa khona okokuba ihlala ikhona ke imbambano njengaleyo ikakhulu phakathi kwaba ongqowankulu nalabo abasebenzayo phakathi komqeshi nabasebenzi bakhe.
Yes, I do understand.
Ewe ikhona into njengaleyo.
And in this, taking it now away from the esoteric level, in this particular situation, you were aware that there was a dispute as between Lonmin and the protesters.
Njengoba ke ubusazi apho kokuba khona ukungevani ungaboni ngasolinye phakathi kwa Lonmin nabaqeshi bakhe abasebenzi.
Correct?
Unjalo?
I think it's a very shaded question that you're asking me. Are you asking me whether there was conflict between the Lonmin as the employer and the protesters as employees? And perhaps maybe if you could take it a little bit further so that I can answer you properly, what would have been the nature of the conflict? As you put it?
Ngokucacileyo okokuba xa uthi kwakuLonmini nalabo abaqhankqalazi ba apho kwakungekho uvisisana ukundichazela okokuba intoni le bebangavani ngayo mhlawumbe ningakwazi ukuba ndiphendule.
Yes. Were you aware that there was a wage dispute as between those two parties?
Wawazi okokuba kukhona into yemivuzo apho kuxatshene ngayo kungavunyelwana khona?
I object to that question. There's no evidence that there was a wage dispute. There was an unprotected strike, and the strikers wouldn't talk within the agreed structures in place between the workers and the employer. That's the evidence thus far before the Commission.
Umhlekazi uBerger uthi asikwazi okokuba sithi kwakukhona ukuthethisana ngezemivuzo apha kwakukho istrike esasingekho emthethweni ngabaqhankqalazi babengavumi okokuba bathethe nabaqeshi ngomlomo we structure ababa bamele kwezomsebenzi.
Do you know, General, that another word for a strike is an industrial dispute?
Uyazi okokuba elinye igama?
No, that is entirely accurate. There are various kinds of industrial disputes. Strikes are one of them, I think.
Yes.
Strike enye yezindlela ukukhankalaza enye yendlela yokubonisa ukungavisisani phakathi komqeshi nomsebenzi wakhe.
My response to you is that we were there as the police to deal with an unprotected strike.
Impendulo yami ke mhlekazi le ukuba thina njengamapolisa ungenelelo lethu apho kwakuyojongana ne strike esasingekho emthethweni.
Yes, and if someone was more verbose, they could express exactly what you are saying, to say you were there for an unprotected industrial dispute, correct?
Omunye ubozoyibeka ngolo hlobo kokuba nina naya phaya ngesizathu sokuthi kwakukhona imbambano emphathelene nemivuzo phakathi komqashi nabasebenzi. Kunjalo?
I don't have the capacity to extend my mind to that, but I know that we were there to deal with an unprotected strike.
Andinawufika apho ubeka khona kodwa ke mina ndithi isizathu esenza ukuba siye phaya ukuba khona kwethu phaya saya ngenxa yokuthi kukhona oluqhankqalazo lalungekho emthethweni.
All right, look, I'm not going to argue semantics with you. I put it to you that you were informed, according to your own statement and the statement of many other witnesses during the briefing, of two things, and I'm still dealing with the first one. It was said to you that there's a conflict between the NUM and AMCU. We've dealt with that in another context. And it was also said to you that there's a dispute about wages with the employees. And further on, it was said to you, what Mr. Berger is saying is correct, that the employees wanted to negotiate with the employer employer, and the employer said it could not negotiate with faceless people. It was in that context that the whole issue of faceless people was raised. So you knew that there was this wage dispute.
Ubuyazi into yokokuba xa niya phaya kwingxelo ezavela okokuba kho imbambatho phakathi kwe union ezizimele abasebenzi amkunenum kukhona lento ke yemivuzo yayingene phakathi kungavunyelana ngayo kukhona nalento yokuba aba basebenzi babefuna ukuthi bazithethele bona nomqeshi.
But my learned friend put is not correct. The evidence is that Lonman could not negotiate principally because the unprotected strikers wanted to negotiate outside established wage negotiation structures. They couldn't do that because contractually they were bound to the existing structures. The faceless comment is taken out of context. That came about on the evidence thus far, that the strikers wouldn't disclose who they speak for, whether it's a trade union or not, and there was a suspicion that there were non-Lonman employees in the crowd. It's in that context that there was a reference to faceless people. But my learned friend should put it on that basis and not on the narrow basis he's done.
Okay.
Uyicacisa ngolo hlobo ke umhlekazi uBerger ukuba ayibekwanga ngendlela lento apha kuze kuthiwe abantu abangaziwayo phaya ukuthi aba baqhankqalazi babefuna ukuthetha bangatsho okokuba bathetha egameni lawuphi umbutho ngako ke kwathiwa ngabantu abangaziwayo.
Okay, for the sake of progress, I'll put it on the wide or narrow basis that Mr. Berger is suggesting. That you, and the rest of the world for that matter, knew that there was a dispute or a number of disputes about wages. Another one is the one that Mr. Berger has kindly told us about whether or not these strikers could negotiate outside the collective bargaining systems without the union, given that there was a 2-year agreement, all those things. That there were disputes about wages principally and about how the issue should be taken forward. That you knew, you were told about that.
Andithi waxelelwa ke kwakungasuwena wedwa uthi umhlekazi uMpofu umhlaba wonke wawuyazi lento kokuba imbambano ekhona phaya iphathelene nemivuzo nendlela aba bantu bafuna ukuyiveza ngayo nokuthi kungevana kokuba makuthethwe ngalendlela ngaphandle kwemigaqo ebekiwe ephathelene nezabasebenzi.
Advocate, it is important to contextualize the involvement of police, and I will again repeat that our involvement as police was because there was an unprotected strike. The drivers thereof are another thing. Their causes, the underlying causes thereof are another thing. But what brings us there as police, what puts us in that scene, is because there is an unprotected, illegal strike.
Advocate mandiyibheke ngolu hlobo lento ukuba mhlawumbe zazikhona ezinye izizathu eziyezabanga okuna okuya kodwa ke ndithi mandichaze kabanzi into yokuba ukubandakanyeka kwethu ke thine njengamapolisa akwa-SABC kwenziwa ukuthi phaya bekukho istrike uqhankqalazo lalungekho emthethweni.
Yes. No, okay, I don't want to be sidetracked into labor law definitions, but I'm sure you know also as a person who has been in management and in HR that the unprotectedness of a strike is not a matter for policing. It's a matter for collective bargaining at best or at worst for the labor law, labor court to either dismiss the unprotected strikers or not.
Andithi ayazi ke into enjengalena njengomuntu owafundela umsebenzi lo wokuphatha nokulawula okokuba xa kukho uqhankqalazo olunjengolu lungekho emthethweni aludingi ubukhoyo bamapolisa phaya into enjengaleyo imikiswa kwezemisebenzi iphathwe zi-labor courts.